Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to talk some Edmonton and we're going to talk some Chicago. But first, just want to say if you're not subscribed, I would love it if you could join me here on this channel for all kinds of future hockey content, playoff content, fun jersey reaction videos, and all kinds of fun. So let's get into this. Let's talk some Chicago versus Edmonton. We're going to break this down into 15 different categories. They'll go through the categories and pick a winner from every category. Then I'll give you the final score of the formula, and then I'll give you my thoughts on who I want to win and who I'm predicting to win. And sometimes those are two different things. So with this formula comes a lot of uncertainty because it really, at the end of the day, means nothing. I've said this in my previous series preview videos. If you haven't seen those, please go check them out. It's a silly formula because this isn't a typical year. Really, a lot of these categories mean absolutely nothing moving into this play-in round. But I think there's some value going through it regardless, just to try and quantify a decision. So here are the categories: season, power play, penalty kill, offense, defense, up the middle, wingers, defensemen, goaltending, pressure, experience, leadership, coaching, chemistry, and history between the two teams. So let's go through this one at a time, and I'll tell you my pick. And this one was difficult. Some series, easy. This one, difficult to pick winners from some of these categories. Season. That is not an objective opinion or a subjective opinion. That is, it's fact. Edmonton had the better season. Power play, that's also Edmonton. Penalty kill, Edmonton. Who has the best offense? Clearly, it's probably Edmonton. It's led by two very prominent players in Draisaitl and McDavid, but even the depth, I think Chicago probably has more depth scoring, but as far as talent and offensive threats, it is Edmonton. So I gave that nod to Edmonton. So Edmonton already has 4 points out of 15 here. Defense, I gave it a split. I couldn't really decide. I think both sides have a lot of valuable defensemen and some defensively risky and potentially irresponsible defensemen. So I felt they were very similar defense-wise. So I gave that a split. Up the middle, I think Edmonton has a stronger centerman depth-wise, so another point for Edmonton. Wingers, I struggled here. I like I said, I struggled for a lot of these. I gave this a split. I kind of a cop-out. Defenseman, I also gave this a split. I really couldn't decide. Goaltending, this one's tough because Corey Crawford is clearly a very talented goalie. He is not a young pup anymore. If we move over to the Edmonton side, what Koskinen are we going to get? What Smith are we going to get? They're two very inconsistent goaltenders, but when they're on their game, they're phenomenal, but you don't always get them at the top of their game for whatever reason. So it's really frustrating. I'm sure as Edmonton fans, I'm not an Edmonton fan, but I do like watching the team, and even as a general hockey fan watching the team, it is frustrating watching them sometimes, just based on the inconsistent goaltending. So I gave it a split. I couldn't really decide. I think Crawford's experience probably excels him beyond both of the two on the opposing side, but I think the tandem is better on the Edmonton side, so split. Pressure, I gave this to Chicago, which means I think Edmonton has more pressure on their shoulders. They've had pressure on their shoulders since 2007 or 2008, after they got so close in 2006, and then it snowballed, and then it snowballed, and now the snowball is absolutely massive. It's a giant snowball. Nobody can pick it up except for McDavid and Draisaitl, and there's an enormous amount of pressure on Edmonton's shoulders. Chicago coming off 3 cups, going through a bit of a rebuild process, personnel change process, so I don't really think there's a lot of pressure on the Chicago Blackhawks shoulders. I think the fans are very accepting of this kind of slow and methodical rebuild process where we have some players coming up to the end of their contracts and definitely the end of their production. I don't want to name any names, but I'm sure Blackhawks fans can pick a few of those. So where was I here? Defenseman? No. Pressure? Yeah, I was at pressure. Sorry, it's not a brain day. It was a long day. Chicago. So I gave that to Chicago, which means Edmonton has more pressure. Experience. So the general core of Chicago is still there. Now that core is aging, but that experience has not aged. Experience never goes away. So I don't even know what's arguable. I think Chicago has by far more experience than Edmonton. Leadership. I also gave this to Chicago. They have a whole locker room full of experience. I mean, all those guys, all that core went through it all. 3 years, not all of them, but the majority of them. The leadership on that team is unbelievable. Coaching, again, hard time. I gave this a split. Chemistry, with all those players that have been playing in Chicago for a while, with Kane and Jonathan Taves, there's chemistry there, even though they don't always play together, sometimes on the power play, obviously. But in Edmonton, there's a lot of chemistry there, but still there's been some new players come in and out. So, again, I couldn't really decide. I gave it a split. History, these two teams actually match up very evenly against each other over their entire history. It's a split. It's very close statistically throughout their entire history against each other. So that's a lot of splits in this one, and not a lot of bold decisions by myself, or maybe inaccurate decisions by myself based on emotion. So we've got Edmonton at 5, Chicago at 3, and 7 splits. So you look at these two teams and you think, okay, well, Chicago just snuck in. How is it so close based on this silly formula? And it's not close, really. When you look at the skill on both teams, I think Edmonton clearly outskills them, but the experience factor of Chicago can't really be ignored, and there's almost an underdog mentality for the Chicago Blackhawks. And I don't know why. I'm not a Chicago Blackhawks fan. You guys, if you're familiar with the channel, you know that I'm not. I don't cheer for the Chicago Blackhawks. I never have, and I probably never will anytime soon. But I like watching them play, specifically in the last 2 years, because I like the process of a team getting successful, maybe winning a couple of cups, maybe not, just getting there to the big dance or near the big dance, and then falling back down and going through that rebuilding process. I love that kind of breathing effect of teams in the NHL, and Chicago is part of that breathing right now. They've come back down, now they're starting to move back up. I like that process. I find it an extremely interesting story, regardless of what team it is. And I enjoy the rise to the top after a fall specifically. So Chicago is going through that, and I think there's something to cheer for there. But on the other side of the coin, there's also something really to cheer for there for Edmonton. They're starving for playoff success. Their fan base needs it. They're so thirsty to see their team actually have some kind of success in the playoffs. So there's two really good stories here. There's the underdog factor of Chicago, which sounds weird to say because of the past 10 years. And then there's the skill, crazy McDavid, Draisaitl story in Edmonton. There's a lot of potential on both sides. I think Chicago's going to surprise a couple of people. I have a weird feeling about them. I don't know why, but I have a weird feeling about them. I think that they could pull off a win here. Edmonton likely wins this series. Objectively, level-headedly, Edmonton would be my pick to win this series. But I just have something, I don't know, there's something going on here in the heart that just has me wanting to pick Chicago. So while up here I want to pick Edmonton, down here I feel like I should pick Chicago. Now I'm cheering for Edmonton. I want Edmonton to win. So emotionally, Edmonton's my pick to win. Like, that's what I want to see. But the gut feeling is just kind of like pushing away the mentality of Edmonton and going with Chicago. So my prediction is going to be a Chicago win in 5 games. We're going all the way, but my want is with Edmonton. So this is a really, really conflicting series for me. I don't know, and I don't think I'm right. Like, that's the thing. That's the problem with this year. This formula, everything I've talked about, means nothing. Like, it's so stupid, and I say this in every video, every series preview, but I have to repeat it because it's true. And also, not everyone watches every video, so I feel like I have to say it in every video. I hope that you guys can predict better than I can, and I would love to hear your predictions and your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Hit that like button down below. Hit the subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit the little bell notification too, so you're notified of upcoming uploads and live streams. I'm still kind of working on that live stream for Saturday. It's about a 70% chance it's going to happen, and it's going to be a long one if I have anything to do with it. So I'd love to see you guys there, talking hockey with me, watching the game together. Should be a lot of fun. So Hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Adios.